matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask
Hello,
what
hello,
you
Taylor. How
can
are
do for
you?
your country.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You're in Dallas.
I'm in Dallas. Yeah, I'm gonna be here for a little bit, then head back home and get back to normal life. It's interesting. It's fun for the element of seeing the family,
Hmm.
but I think there's a certain age where you're so used to your routines and how you do things and the foods you eat and when you eat and what you do and when the quiet time comes and when the busy time. I don't know. It's weird. It's like getting harder and harder to kind of click over into
Hmm. Hmm.
being malleable to that. But
Yeah, that makes sense. You have
yeah,
your things you do. Yeah, well, let me introduce us real fast. Welcome to Doomed to Fail. We bring you history's most notorious disasters and epic failures. And I am Taylor, joined by Fars in Dallas. And I was just in Texas, and Fars made us a wonderful dinner, and we hung out in his pool, and it was very, very fun. So
I
thank you for having us.
I don't like to brag. I'm a very humble man, but that brisket
So good.
was amazing.
I'm so impressed. I showed my husband. He was like, "Fars made that," and I was like, "Yeah." I was
It was
super
one of the
impressive.
better ones, man. The secret. So here, what I've done before is I try to rush the process. So I'll wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then if I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's usually ready to serve by 8. But because y'all were coming over earlier, like 2:30, whatever it was, I put it in the night before, and that
Hmm.
gave me the chance to cook it super low. Like usually I'll start at like 250. This time I started at 220. And
Hmm.
oh my, that was incredible. So
Hmm.
anyways, patting myself on the
Yeah,
back. There
you
you
did a
go.
great job.
Thank you.
It was presented lovely. It was great.
Perfect. We had a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I am only saying whew because I am devastated by the story I'm going to tell you. I
Oh,
like started
geez.
crying. I started crying when I was writing this. I don't even know. It's very emotional,
So no more
which is
feel-good
great.
stories.
No more feel-good stories. Thank you for everyone who enjoyed our feel-good story, but we're not doing that today.
Shucks. All right. Let's hear it.
Um, I just I have been in deep sorrow, but I know that is and like maybe this is stupid, but I just all there's people are just so deeply flawed to continue to fight each other in war. It's just like, why are we doing this? It makes absolutely no sense. And I know that like that's not a profound statement, but it's just like hard to even like wrap your head around the stuff that we do to each other for like literally no reason, you know?
I mean, we do it for a reason. It's just a question whether it is a
It's just like
justifiable reason.
exactly, exactly. Um, And I'll tell you what it is in a second, but I hear all sorts of warning bells from this story that, like, if you terrorize a people, you risk creating terrorists. When you kill your enemy's children, you're killing the possibility of them becoming what you're fighting against, but again, they're children. And then also, in that vein, like, does the worst that a people are capable of justify killing the possibility of it expanding? Does that make sense? Like,
It's it's like the old if you went back, would you kill Hitler, the baby Hitler?
yeah, yeah.
I can't
So
think I would.
I just don't know. Yeah, but like it's a symptom of a bigger thing and all of that, you know? There's this really silly, gosh, it's like Twilight Zone with Katherine Heigl from a long time ago, where she goes back in time specifically to kill baby Hitler. But when she does it, it turns out that the real baby Hitler had been like kind of sickly, so the nursemaid had switched him for like a presumably Jewish child that was like on the street, and that's the baby that Katherine Heigl killed, but not the real Hitler, and the real Hitler was still out there, and like that was all that had happened. It was just like a time travel
Is
silly.
this real?
Well, it's a
Is
real
this really?
TV show. No one
No,
goes back in time.
I know it's not real. Catherine Heigl. How did the two don't even overlap in time? Twilight Zone and Catherine Heigl. I guess they do. All right.
One of the newer ones, anyway. It's silly, but anyway, just I feel very, very heartbroken, and I'm going to talk about the deadliest bombing in history and one of the deadliest days, if not the deadliest day in human history, which is March 10th, 1945, Operation Meetinghouse, the firebombing of Tokyo.
Ah, okay.
I'm actually like gonna start crying now because I'm so upset about this. This is gonna be great. I'm just gonna cry the whole time. Over 100,000 people died. about 16 square miles of Tokyo were just gone. I asked ChatGPT to put that into some reference for me. Oh, I just lost it. It's like if Manhattan underneath 110th Street was just gone or just gone. Two Santa Monicas, half of San Francisco,
Okay,
just like
there you go.
absolutely gone. Yeah.
Got it. Now I understand.
Um, yeah. So I read the book Black Snow, Curtis LeMay, The Firebombing of Tokyo and the Road to the Atomic Bomb by James M. Scott. And I listened to a couple other like YouTube videos that I'll share in the notes. But I'll start with some history and the people involved. I'll weave in some of the plane history, like aircraft history, and then the day, and then what happened after. So we are in World War II, obviously, and we're in the Pacific. We're using airplanes in a way that has never been used before. So at this point, there are generals who are saying that air warfare is the pinnacle of what humans can do to each other because you can do so much destruction and get away or do it so quickly and do it so fast. I'll add to that that like technological warfare and unmanned flight are, I feel like, our next big things that are going to be unbelievably devastating. But yes, like at this point, like buying people from the air, you can create so much devastation that you never could before in the history of war. It's brand new. Right now, the Air Force is not its own branch of the U.S. military. That's how new it is still. So there, it is the U.S. Army Air Forces, the USAAF, but not a separate branch yet. That will come later. One of the biggest cheerleaders for a separate Air Force is General Hap Arnold, who is the commander of the United U.S. Army Air Forces. And Hap Arnold, the guy who's like, we should have our own Air Force, he learned to fly from the Wright brothers. Like,
Incredible.
that's how
That is
fucking new this
incredible.
is. I know.
So, real quick, do you know why we even needed an Air Force? Because now the Navy has a Air Force. I think the second
I
biggest
know.
Air
Good
Force in
question.
the world outside of the U.S. Air Force is the Navy's Air Fleet. But like, if the Marines have, or the Army has one, and the Navy has, like, why do we need a separate one?
That's such a good question. I don't know. I think it's like they, like in this case, it was like to command the, the planes in a strategically, but also like you're right that the Navy has a huge plane contingent. So I don't know if anyone
I think that's
knows.
true. I think
Just
The
anyway.
Navy's the second biggest air fleet
Yeah.
outside of the Air Force.
Yeah. I mean, I believe you. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
My friend, I have friends who went to the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy, and my friend who went to the Air Force Academy has done like 1,000 parachute jumps. He
I
would do
don't know
them
what
like
it
in
is.
school.
Those guys are so cool.
I just It's so cool. I'm like, you should write that on a t-shirt and wear it every day. Like, I don't even understand. It's crazy.
I know. It's like uniquely badass. They're like athletes. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Like one of my friends was like, yeah, at my last job, I used to jump out of helicopters and save people from the water. And I'm like, you did what? I just am at my computer. I've never done anything. So whatever. But no, that's a really
We
good
do
question if
stuff,
anyone else
Taylor.
wants. I guess, but I've never done something like
Sort
that.
of.
So anyway, all of this is wildly new. All of this airfare or air fighting is new. Up until 1945 was we're obviously in the middle of World War II. A few months after Pearl Harbor, we did manage to bomb Tokyo in the Doolittle raid, but it was hard because it was hard to get there. It took a long time and there was really nowhere to stop. So for the initial raids on Japan, we would have to stop in, I say we, the US, the US would have to
Yeah.
stop in China or Russia to get there. So it was not easy. But once we did things like we've been talking about, like conquering those islands up in Japan, like Iwo Jima and Guam, like you were closer. So even during the firebombing of Tokyo, it took 7 hours for them to get there, but they could get there because we had better planes and we were closer, like we were before, and we could turn around. So the war in Europe had escalated and ended. So by the time of the firebombing of Tokyo, the war in Europe is over. It had ended with some insane destructions of German cities. The big one that people think about probably first is
President.
Dresden. Yeah. I've been there. It is bleak. It is a
Really?
bleak, gray place. It was raining, but also like I feel like it was just like bleak because it was gone. And Dresden was the Florence of Germany. It was beautiful. There it had like, palaces and churches that were centuries old, and it was gorgeous. And when Dresden was destroyed, a lot of people were just like, can't believe that you did that. Like it was such a beautiful place. If you look at pictures of Dresden after it was firebombed, it is a graveyard of facades. It is like big stone facades that are empty. So just like empty buildings. But Tokyo is different. It's like built differently. So just a side note, so how they planned firebombing Dresden and Tokyo, they kind of worked on them together, and the idea was they're going to burn differently. So they took US architects who had lived in peace times in Germany and in Japan, and they brought them to the desert in California or Arizona, wherever, and they built cities. So like literally from my house right now, I can see a Middle Eastern city over the mountain. So I can see over the mountain there is this white city that is built the way that like a city is built in Afghanistan, and they practice bombing it all the time. Like they have like raids in there and things. I can always hear them bombing at the base by me. So that's what they did is they built German cities and Japanese cities and bombed them to see what would happen because it would have to be a little bit different because they're built differently.
Was the did the US do Dresden or was that UK?
I think it was the UK, but we were like very involved.
Okay,
I think it was like a together thing.
got it.
We definitely like flew from, it was easy, so much easier to get there, to get to
Yeah,
Germany from, especially once you've liberated France. I mean, you're right next door. It's like
right, right.
not that hard. Um, so they built the brick buildings like Dresden. They filmed them with, curtains and furniture like you would have in Germany, and they bombed them to see what would happen. For Tokyo, to prepare to bomb Japan, they built the wooden homes with straw mats and paper walls. Like that's like traditional Japanese house. And they set them on fire and they bombed them to figure out what would happen. There are people who studied in Tokyo pre-war, came back to the US, helped build these cities to practice bombing, and then went back to Tokyo afterwards to help rebuild.
Wow.
Like, what a life. Like, what was the point of anything? You know what I mean? Just blows my
Dude,
mind.
these pictures of Dresden are like there's like nothing. Like this
Yeah.
is wow.
In Tokyo, like Dresden, there's that graveyard of empty facades, lots of stone, but Tokyo is gone. There is
Yeah, what you're
nothing.
referring to is a picture where it's like you can see the like the front side of it's like a
Hmm.
top-down angled view, so you can see the facade, but it's very clear because you can also look into it beyond the facade and see that it's like just
Empty.
rubble.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing. Totally. And like, we saw that in London and like we see that all over Europe, but the one in Dresden was like specifically meant just to destroy everything. It didn't matter. Like there was a lot of bombing. They say like, oh, even now, oh, we're going after a manufacturing plant, or like, oh, we're going after this thing, but it's like happens to be in the middle of a civilian place, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but what they're doing is what they did in Dresden was specifically meant to destroy the city. It was called terror bombing. It was meant to make the civilian population say, we have had enough and demand that it was over. So there was less pretense of like, oh yeah, we're trying to hit this, I don't know, this engine factory. Like, no, we're going to destroy the city. We're going to kill people. We want them to be hungry. We want them to be afraid. We want them to demand that this is over. So that was
Like
like the point of it.
it reminds me a little bit of like Gaza and Israel because like it's borderline war crimes, but
Absolutely.
they're done to inflict pressure on leadership. So they're inflicted
Hmm.
on innocent civilians so that they
Hmm.
rise up, basically.
And the question after this is like, is this a war crime? Like, can you rise up after this? Also, because you are starving. People
Yeah,
starve. There were, 300,000 orphans. Like, what do you do with that? Like
yeah.
just, I don't know. So now it's 1945. The war in Europe is over, and we want to avoid, and this is again like something that we say, is you want to avoid a ground invasion of Japan. Many more Americans will die. American parents don't want to send their sons. Like now we're talking about like the young guys. Like my grandpa, like I have one grandpa that was older and he was in the Navy and he never went over to Europe, but he was stationed, he was like a, a trainer in like the Great Lakes area and he would like train guys to go over. But my dad's dad joined when he was like 15. He joined the youngest he could possibly join and he would have gone for sure. But like it,
Yeah.
it ended before then. But like it was like now we have boys who were like nine, like Miles' age, like 8 years old when the war started, and then this war has been going on for so long, I'm going to send him? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? So Americans were like, we want this to be over.
Yep.
Um, and it will take forever. And we have this. idea of the Japanese people that like I want to counter a little bit. So I know like Dan Carlin says the Japanese are like everyone else, only more so, because they were like super intense about this and everything, and they did very terrible things, and really believe that like God would for the emperor and Japan would be successful. And there's people like that guy who like lived in the woods for 30 years because he never thought that they would ever surrender. That exists. People who really thought that. And we've seen things like when we like invaded Saipan, all the people that jumped over that cliff. Do you remember that story?
No.
Like the people of Japan were told the Americans were so brutal, which is what we're told about the Japanese, which is true on both sides, that they will come in and they will kill them and they will rape their children and rape their women and just torture and destroy everything. So when they got to Saipan, mothers would take their children
Oh,
and they all
that's
jump
right.
off a
That's
cliff
right. Yep.
together,
Yep. Yep. I remember
and it was
this.
just horrifying for everyone involved. Like people who watched it
Yeah.
happen were like, don't do that. So all this is happening. We're just please like let this end. So Hap and his team have a new plane. It is the B-29 Superfortress bomber. It is huge. It can reach Japan from the islands that we just got, like Iwo Jima, etc. It's not like next door. It takes 7 hours to fly Tokyo and 7 hours back, but it's still like doable for the B-29, which is new, that a plane can do that whole round trip and be able to do it. But it's expensive. So it's a big, expensive plane. It's huge. In They used it in Germany with to success, whatever, because it can fly really high and drop a bomb and then get away. So there's not a lot of like chances of like losing the plane. Japan has wildly different weather from Europe. So the jet stream at that certain level above Japan is insane. So there is no way to drop a bomb from that high and have it land on your target. It's just too windy. And it's also too cloudy. You can't see anything from like December through March in Japan. There's clouds constantly. So there was no way that they were going to be able to do it. Um, they used, for example, 835 B-29s dropped over 2,000 tons of bombs on the Nakajima aircraft factory that's near Tokyo, and it was never less than 96% operational. Like you just didn't hit it. You just couldn't do it
Jeez.
the way they were doing it. Um, a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
sounds
more.
actually vaguely familiar because I do recall with the reason why Nagasaki wasn't as bad was because of that, because the jet stream pushed the bomb out of the center where it was supposed to be, where it was supposed to land.
And Nagasaki was even the second choice that day because they couldn't see the first choice, you
There you
know?
go. Yep. Yep,
So
that's
it's
true.
like, what a fucking fate, Just like the clouds, like, we can't do it.
Yep.
Um, but so the B-29 Superfortress, huge plane, typically had a crew of 11 men. There was the aircraft commander, who's a pilot, a co-pilot, a bombardier, navigator, engineer, radio operator, radar operator, left gunner, right gunner, top gunner, and tail gunner. So it could also
The
shoot out
tail.
both sides.
I know. I'm looking at a picture. It's crazy. It's like a little window, like above the vertical stabilizer with
Nope.
gun turrets coming out the back of it.
Nope. Like so scary.
So
Um,
scary.
but for the Tokyo bombing, they will get rid of the gunner position. So typically they'll have about 8 or 9 people instead of 11 because they want to fit more bombs because there's no plan to like shoot from the plane. They're
Right.
just gonna
Right.
bomb. So that will happen later. But classically, like 11 people on a B-29. So we have these new planes. The war in Europe is over technically, and something needs to happen in Japan. The general in command of the B-29 fleet, which is the 21st Bomber Command of the Pacific, is Brigadier General Haywood Hansel, and he was a big part of the precision bombing in Germany. And he had bombed Tokyo in November, but it was not a huge success. He hadn't really hit what he wanted to hit. And in January 1945, he gets relieved of duty, and the job goes to our main character, Major General Curtis LeMay. So he's the guy who is in charge of this whole thing.
It seems really familiar.
Yeah, so Curtis LeMay is like just a very he did a lot. Let me just tell you. So
Yeah. Please.
Curtis I'll tell you. He was born November 15th, 1906. He would live to be 80. He died in 1990. He was born in Ohio. He came from a super poor family where his dad would just like go from job to job um and they never really were stable. He worked through high school. He worked at a steel mill to pay his way through college. He went to Ohio State and he joined the Air Corps Reserves in 1929 where he learned to fly. Um, he was short and kind of chubby. He married a woman named Helen Maitland on June 9th, 1934. A cute story is that they went on a double blind date, and Helen and her girlfriend like looked out the window and they saw the guys coming toward them, and Helen said, "I'll take the fat one," and they got married.
What's a double blind date mean?
It means like both people don't know who the person's with. So you
Isn't
like
that a
go
blind
on a date
date?
with like you go on a date with like two people, but you like kind of are picking who you want to be on the date with. You know,
Okay, okay, okay. Yep, yep,
it's
yep.
not like you're on a date with Rachel, I'm on a date with Juan. It's like the four of you are going on a date and you like figure out who you like.
Got it, got it.
You know. Um, so anyway, she picked the fat one. They got married. They had one kid.
It's cute.
Yeah. But LeMay is a brutal guy. He just wanted to get it done, and he would like in Europe when he was commanding forces in Europe, and people he'd be like, "You have to do this. Like if you chicken out, you're gonna be court-martialed. Like everyone has to do what I tell them to do. Like very, very strict." He had some hilarious nicknames. They are Old Iron Pants, Iron Ass, the Demon, Bombs Away LeMay, and the Big Cigar. Because he's often seen with a cigar. After this, he's
Of
going to be on the
course.
cover of Time magazine. Well, actually, it's because he had Bell's palsy and half his face wasn't working. So he got Bell's palsy, which is like a disease, and it makes your face kind of droop. And he got it, and the doctor was like, "Well, we can like do X, Y, and Z, but it might not work." And he was like, "Forget it, I have work to do." So he would often have a cigar in his mouth just to kind of like make that droop less visible.
That's kind of smart.
So, um, later after World War II is over, he's going to be part of tactics in the Cold War. He's really, really against the Vietnam War, and he joins George Wallace and for the presidential campaign, and he runs for vice president in 1968 with the American Independent Party. He wasn't a very good politician, and George Wallace like didn't like him. And George Wallace, who was very famously like very racist and was not going to win, but they received 13.5% of the popular vote and they carried five states, which is a lot.
I mean, Perot got 13%. Like there was a
I know.
time when independent movements actually also, and just like I think it's hilarious how out of shape we become that we call this a fat man. Like
I
this
know.
guy would be like an athlete in today's America.
He has his little jowly, but who isn't?
I
You're
can't talk.
right. So later, he's actually going to get an award from Japan about how he like helped stuff afterwards called the Order of the Rising Sun, which reminded me so much of like, remember after the Indianapolis was shot down, like a year later, they have the
Yeah.
captain of the submarine on trial. You're like, guys, now we're just talking to each other. You know, even like JFK talking to fucking what's his face and being like, you killed my brother, but can you please build me a rocket to the moon?
No, dude, they had the captain of the submarine testify against
Yeah,
McVeigh. That's what it was. They were like
yeah,
they brought him in to like indict on American soil the American cat. It's crazy.
wild. Like, what's happening? We should all just like have a meal and calm down.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's about that. That's LeMay. That's his life. The point I want to make, but the fact that like he was brutal and like wanted this done, is that he knew what he was doing. He knew everything that would happen. He knew the people who would die, the types of people who would die, and he did it without remorse, just to say that like he knew what was going to happen and he did it on purpose and he did it for his reasons, which were to, you know, stop the ground invasion, stop all these things. But he was under no pretenses that like what he was doing was like trying to strategically hit factories or whatever. He was going to destroy Tokyo.
I
That
mean,
was
we
his goal.
can't say he did it without remorse. We don't know what the guy was going through. Like, it reminds me of when Oppenheimer goes to Truman and was
Hmm.
like, I have blood on my hands. And he's like, you didn't tell him to drop the damn bomb. I did. It's all like, like it's like you're stuck between a rock and a, I mean, I'm not saying he
I
didn't,
know.
but I'm just saying, like, I don't know what he was going through.
I
Like,
know, but the stuff that I read is he was very much like I he didn't he never like felt bad about it. He never said he
all
did,
right.
but you're right. Maybe he did inside his heart. I don't know.
Who
Um,
knows?
I
Men
I
men
do
have a
have a
hard
note that
time sharing their feelings, and especially I'm
that's true,
sure a
especially in that
military.
time.
Yes.
Exactly. And just to note, I did have a note that he did not sleep that night, which he usually sleeps through bombing campaigns, but that was the one night he didn't sleep. So at least there's that. You're right. You're right. Um, so he has very, very little time to prove himself. It is January. They are going to firebomb Tokyo in the beginning of March. So he's like, we have to do this and we have to do it now. The precision bombing isn't working. And we haven't technically tried to kill civilians yet. We've been like doing that thing like, oh, we're trying to hit factories or whatever. And it's not like people didn't know that it might happen because Japan was preparing for it. Um, and so, like they did in the UK, like they sent all the kids from London to the country, like they were doing that all over the world. They were sending children from major cities into the country to try to save them. They were doing that in Japan. They were sending kids from Tokyo just out into the country, hopefully, hoping that like they would be okay. They knew they would be bombed in some way or another. Um, in Tokyo itself, the Japanese pulled down like 300,000 buildings to create fire breaks. We've talked about a bunch
Yeah.
in like talking about fires, talking about like other wars. Like I think I told you this, but when I went to the um the atomic bomb museum in Hiroshima, like a lot of the children that died, what they were doing instead of going to school is they were helping pull down buildings because they
Yeah.
were trying to create fire breaks because they knew that this could happen. They were expecting something like the firebombing of Tokyo. They weren't expecting an atomic bomb, but they were expecting something, and they're trying to create fire breaks. Additionally, in 1923, there was a huge earthquake in Japan, and so much was destroyed. So a lot of stuff that was built was relatively new and quickly built anyway, because a lot of it had been destroyed, like some in the last 20 years in Japan, in
Yeah.
the
It can be
world.
pulled down easily.
Yeah, yeah. So also, they had people digging holes in their homes as like a little shelter. They would do things like sleep with their clothes next to them, obviously, like just to be able to get up and leave and go into like a school or someplace underground like as quickly as possible. Kids had these hoods that their moms would make them out of like old kimonos and such that you would put over your head so you could breathe, kind of like just like a mask to be able to try to breathe through the smoke. So kids would the children who remember it, that's what they remember. They remember waking up and like putting on their clothes really fast and putting on their hood and like running. Um, so LeMay has an idea. He says, let's instead of flying super high, even though the B-29s can do this, let's fly low so we can like cover more space and like get more stuff. So he does some tests with his pilots and has them fly at like 50 feet. Because like if you can fly a B-29 at 50 feet, you could do fucking anything, you know? So like
Yeah.
they were coming in different places. So now it's time to do something. And there are other cities that they're going to hit also after this, and I'll tell you more a little bit about them, but Tokyo is the big one. Another thing that like I keep thinking that I don't know, as I get older, LeMay is 38 when he's doing this, and Emperor Hirohito is only 43. So like, what is the right age to be able to make these decisions? I feel like as I get older, I'm like, there is no right age. Like, what is it? I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think?
38 seems,
It
again, I
seems
think
so
people were
young.
hardier back then. Like,
Yeah. It's
you
different
know,
after you've like been through the
yeah, like
European War, but
a 38-year-old then is like probably like a 60-year-old to us. I don't know.
I'm sure he like looked old. You know
Yeah,
what I
well,
mean?
of
Like compared
course,
to
of
us.
course.
You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
know anyone that looks like that. So it is March and we are going to firebomb Tokyo. And what I mean is over 300 B-29s are going to fly the 7 hours to Tokyo at night at different altitudes and they can't see each other. So it's like being in the B-29 itself is wild. You're there for 7 hours. It's loud as shit. It's cold. And there's 299 other planes out with you, and you're all at varying levels of altitude, and you can't see each other.
It's
So they just like
terrifying.
went. Um, they only lost about 20 B-29s in the whole raid, which is remarkable because they were like losing them fast. They sent one journalist on in all of the 300 B-29s, and he was a person who, just as an aside, had survived the Coconut Grove nightclub fire, and his wife had died. So that was like one of the biggest, it was in Boston, one of the biggest fires in US history where like hundreds of people died in a nightclub. And he was saved by like a man pulled him out of the rubble. And then when he was in the Pacific, getting ready to just like taking pictures, being a journalist, a man came up to him and said, I'm the one who pulled you out of the rubble in Boston. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, there's just nobody around. Like,
just like four
There's
people.
like
What
there's
are we
like
doing?
20 people in the whole country.
And he was like, he had big, I don't give a fuck vibes because he was like, I've been through shit. I'll go on one of these B-29. So he did go at that. But again, there is limited crew, so there's no gunners. So they can carry more bombs. And they're dropping incendiary napalm bombs. It's hard for me to say, which means they fall out of the sky and they explode in like arrows of napalm, which is sticky fire.
Yeah,
And it will stick to the houses and burn. It is white hot. It is 1,000 degrees when it hits the house. There's no chance of it not just destroying everything.
yeah,
They set off on March 9th. It is also very dry. Obviously, like we've talked about in like many fires, like that's a big part of it. It's very dry, and the city's been like ready to burn. The first bombs hit shortly after midnight in the Shitamachi district. It took 7 minutes for the sirens to start going off, so people could like hear it and smell it, but like the sirens didn't go off in the whole city for 7 minutes. And it's also just really, really cold. Like it's winter. There's some snow on the ground. There is people remember like they would wake up in the morning and have to like break the ice on their water buckets. Like it was really cold. When that will help later preserve the bodies and like other times, like when the atomic bombs go off, it's August and bodies are bloating and exploding and it's just that that is on top of it. But this time it's gonna be easier to identify bodies, even though it's hard because they're frozen in some cases,
yeah.
which is like a small mercy of all this terrible things about to happen. Most of the people in Tokyo are women and children and people who cannot go to war because most of the men are gone. They have
Right.
died. They are out doing things like they're out. The newspapers continuously said that Japan was winning. Obviously, like that was the propaganda was like everything's fine. We're super close. On the street, people would whisper to each other, "I don't think we're winning," but you weren't allowed to say that.
Right.
Like
Right.
you can't say that. You're going to go to jail. You can't talk about it. Um, So they know something's coming. They're kind of prepared for anything, but they're not prepared for this. There's Japanese gunners that will try to drop some of the B-29s. I mean, it's hardly any that they get.
Hey, real quick,
They,
sorry, as an aside. Did Hirohito, do we know if he actually thought that he could win? I've always questioned the wisdom of doing the Pearl Harbor attack, like a direct attack on the US. It
yeah,
seems really unwise. It's like me going up to like the biggest dude I can find and being like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit you in the face. I think maybe I'm gonna beat you later. What was the logic?
I know. I wonder, and I think there's like a little bit of like the imperial. We're meant to take over the world, and I also feel like there's probably, and this is just me making this up, but probably a feeling that you get when your land is so like it's an island. It's not any bigger. There's not a lot of places for them to go, so they have to like go hard into other places where there's like a lot more space. And then I also think that he's surrounded by people who are literally telling him that he's from God, whether or not they believe it or not. But they have this idea that they're like
Destined.
chosen people. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't I don't
terrible
know.
move on his part.
And like I've talked about this before, like I don't know what the fuck that if that would happen if the Nazis had won, because the Nazis aren't gonna let them live. Certainly not
Yeah,
white. You know?
yeah.
Um, like, did you see that? Would you see or read The Man in the High Castle?
No.
So it was the Philip K. Dick story, and I wish it was a little bit like fantastical, and I wish it hadn't been as fantastical because I liked the actual history of it. But the idea was that like if we had lost, what it would look like. And in it, they separate the United States by the Rocky Mountains, and so the West is owned by Japan, and then the East is owned by Germany. It's just like super interesting how like they're trying to figure it out. Then there's magic, and then you're like, eh. But like what would have happened eventually? The
Where
Germans would
would
have
they
killed all
have
the
put
Japanese as well.
me?
I don't know. Good question. They probably would have killed you.
Oh no.
Oh no. Um, so okay. So the B-29s dropped 10 tons of bombs every minute for 2 hours, nonstop. Just drop bombs, absolute constant. People were trapped in the burning city. They did it in a way that they kind of bombed out and then the burned in, and there was no way out. People were People ran with their children tied to their backs. They ran. Children survived under piles of dead bodies. People were burned. They died of carbon monoxide poisoning in their little holes that they had dug in their houses. They jumped into pools and bathtubs and water cisterns and they were boiled alive. Um, Parents would pass out from carbon monoxide poisoning and wake up just surrounded by their dead children. All of their children gone. People were drowned in rivers under masses of bodies because people are trying to run to the river because they're burning, and the river is hot, and they are boiling, and they are drowning. And people they would find piles of people burned in a pile and be like, "How are these people burned in a pile?" Because they were in a building trying to shield each other, and the building burned down
Mm.
and the building is gone, but the pile of people is still there. The shelters they dug were worthless. People saw babies that were just born still attached to their mothers, dead, like people going into labor. Um, it's called, the book I read is called like uh, Black Snow because then it's just like ash falling. People are dying. The fire is coming through in tunnels, 70 miles per hour, just like if you survive, you're very badly burned. You're like nothing is good. Everything is gone.
Did they
I
know it
did
was
this is
coming?
what they knew something was going to happen, but they didn't expect it to be like this because up until this, we've done like the really poorly precise precision bombing.
Yeah.
So it was like maybe we'll be bombed once or twice, but not like a constant 2 hour attack of napalm constant, you know.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't have expected that.
Right.
They just didn't. Um, That's why I wrote LeMay did have trouble sleeping that night, but just that night. He slept
Right.
like a baby every other night. A couple people who were there, like that, just wanted to point out there is a photographer named Ichikawa Koji. He was, he survived. He like at some point he passed out. He lost his car. He was like running through the fire, but he did take pictures of it, so you can see his photos, and I'll share some of them, just of like piles of dead bodies, of destruction, all these things. So, he was there to document it. Um, and then in general, the Americans, like they, a lot of them were haunted by this. You know, they could smell burning people from their airplane. You could see the burning from up to 200 miles. And then what? They're supposed to come home and like be door-to-door vacuum salesmen and good
Yeah.
fathers. You know, like I don't know what you're supposed to do after that.
Yeah, it's
I
gotta
have
be
to,
traumatic.
I know that I did this. Um, Other things that they did, it was part of a wider bombing campaign. So after this, they hit Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, and then Nagoya again. So it was five raids over 9 days. They incinerated 32 square miles of Japan's four largest cities. So again, like Japan, Tokyo itself, it was like 16 square miles, which is like most of Manhattan or all of Santa Monica, if you're a California, half of San Francisco. In that week, they killed 150,000 plus people. Um, with like very few American losses. At one time they paused because they ran out of napalm and then they did it again. Like they just were like, we have just used all of our thing, just everything is on fire. Um, Yokohama, for example, was 58% burned. And then now you have millions of refugees, people who would like walk or try to take trains to the country where they were like, it was hard for them to find resources. Like, and before this, even before this, they were starving you
Yeah.
know like they would be like don't think about rice because they didn't have any rice like they
Right.
were very there was nothing to eat in most of Japan. So besides this, people are starving, and then all these like refugees come to the country where they're like we're all starving too. um there were hundreds of thousands of people were wounded. There were hundreds of thousands of orphans. Like if you're 3 years old and your whole family dies, what happens to you? You know, like either someone has to take you, and there's stories of like the of children like having to go to like their aunts and uncles, and their aunts and uncles being like, "We hate you for this. You're taking our food." Like we wish you had died too because it
Yeah.
would have been easier. Like everyone is just like it's just terrible. And then they thought like Americans celebrated. They didn't want to send their kids over. They didn't want to know honestly the devastation. They didn't have many pictures of exactly what had happened, but they were like, this has to be it. They have to give up now, like after this raid. But as you know, they didn't, and it took the two atomic bombs to make them finally surrender. Um, and I just like I can't believe Japan still exists after all of this,
I know.
I can't believe how many buildings are in Tokyo and how beautiful it is, and that there are trees, like that there are trees in Tokyo, I think is a miracle. And it's just like so wild that it's still there. And then I think afterwards, they went in and we like tried to fix it and all of that. But I think it's a real miracle that like the Japanese aren't trying to start a war with us now in retaliation. You know what I mean? Like that we didn't like I took a freaking cooking class in Tokyo with a German family, an Austrian family, me and Juan, and like a Japanese woman, you know? Like that just and it's been like 80 years.
I have a really like I'm really bad at understanding the scale of things. And I've never
Hmm.
been to Japan, but when I look at the map, it looks so tiny.
Hmm.
And I'm like, everything I hear about World War II, I'm like, was there like anything left? Like, was like any, it seems so small.
It is such a miracle that there's anything left, you know? And like the cities that were like we just said before, like, oh, we can't see this, we can't see Osaka today, so we're gonna hit Hiroshima or hit Nagasaki. You know what I mean? Like that is such a fucking crazy decision to make in the air, you know?
Is LeMay the one who had his honeymoon in Kyoto and said we can't drop the bombs there?
He's not, but I do know that there is one that has that. Yeah. I don't think he's the one who said that.
Interesting.
But there
Okay.
is someone who did that. You know, they're like, oh, it's too beautiful to destroy. You know, you're like, what the hell, you guys? Like, it's just, you know. And then obviously, like, a big part of the lesson that, like, I fucking learned at that devastating museum in Hiroshima is like, this is just indiscriminate bombing of civilians. You're just killing people, you know? But like more people would have died, more people would have continued to die, would have kept going, and I understand that. And we couldn't have let the Nazis get the atomic bomb and all these things, but like, man, dying that way is just so unfair, you know? Like for anyone.
I mean, yeah.
So there is like you were saying, like there's a that's the debate afterwards. Like, is this a war crime? Is it not? Like, what do you do afterwards?
It was a guy
You gotta
named Henry Stimson, U.S. Secretary of War during
Simpson.
World War II. Yep.
Hmm. It totally makes sense. So yeah, that's it. It's just such a fucking so terrible. I'm so just all of the stories that were in the book that I read are so just children remembering, you know, your parents screaming and grabbing you and trying to hide you and getting on top of you and waking up and there's like bodies that are there's pictures where the child has fallen off the parent's body and the only part of the parent that isn't burned is the part where the child was on because the child was burned on top of them, you know, like just stuff like that. And then the cleanup was insane. They buried a lot of people and then later they dug them all up and burned them together, like a lot of the bodies, and so they're in big urns in Tokyo in a museum right now, with urns of people who died in the 1923 earthquake. So just like even that had like that devastation had happened, then this devastation had happened, and it was just like so many people. Um, and so I happened to this to end the New York Times interviewed some men from Japan. The youngest men in the Japanese military are still alive. They're like 105 and there's like four of them and they joined when they were like 14. And the stuff that they're saying is like this is stuff that kind of made me cry. There's a man named Kenichi Ozaki. He's 97 years old. He enlisted in 1943 when he was 15. And he told the New York Times, quote, "In their last breaths, no one shouted for the long life of the emperor. They called out for their mothers." And then another guy said, Tetsuo Sato, he's 105, and he said, "They wasted our lives like pieces of scrap paper. Never die for emperor or country." Just like
Yeah.
afterwards, like, why did we do that? You know, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again and again and again and again forever until the Earth's gone. So congratulations, everyone.
Yeah. Is what it is.
Yeah, terrible. It's felt so I just feel so sad for the stuff that's happening today that is so similar, you know, and
Yeah.
just the
Well,
fear and like wanting to take care of your family. So
I
anyway, I've had a sad
I
2 weeks.
I've been very bullish on AI lately because
Hmm.
it will decide for us what's right and
That's
wrong.
true.
And how could that go wrong?
How could that go wrong? No, when it's just the robots, we'll be like, well,
You know what's gonna be funny is like in 500 years, people are gonna like somehow dig up and find the Terminator movies and be like, "Oh, there's a documentary about this."
exactly. Oh, they knew and they did it anyway? They did. We did. Um, There is at least one time per baseball season where I will hold on to the chain link fence and scream and ask someone what movie it's from.
Yeah,
And like, like
that's
most
a
people are like,
terrifying.
"What are you doing?"
That
Like,
scene
imagine me turning
scared.
into a skeleton.
That scene scared me so bad when I was a kid and I
Me
saw that
too.
movie. When she turns into a skeleton is terrifying.
Oh my God, I know. And that, I mean, that's what happened to real people. I don't know. Fucking
Yeah,
sucks, And like people just most of these people, I'm thinking about these people, and I'm thinking about people in ancient wars who were like, Jesus fucking Christ, I just want to have like watch my four goats and not die, and like not I'm not like doing anything crazy. I just want to like not die. And you have no
yeah,
choice because the emperor of all emperors of all time, or the general or the dictator or whatever, is like, I want this and this and this and this. And you're like, fine, I'll put a fucking pot on my head and go outside and try to do something, and I'll die for this. Why?
What, do you know how long it was between this and when the atomic bombs were dropped?
This was in March, those were in August. It took a month.
So he had months to be like, I'm done. We're done with
Yeah.
this.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't. And we were like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to go there by land and risk people, which, I don't
Yeah,
disagree
that's the
with.
problem. I think that's a
No.
problem with all of this stuff is that there's a valid argument on both sides.
hmm
Actually, there's not really a valid argument on the Japanese side here. There's a valid argument on the American side. On the
Like if
Japanese
you're
side,
good,
it was like what are you going to keep attacking us in Hawaii? And like, what do you do? Your only
yeah,
alternative is to cause mass revolts and complete destruction, or do that and also lose a bunch of your own people.
yeah,
Anyways,
that was going to happen. Yeah. Either way, it's going to be terrible. So that's
well,
it.
that was uplifting. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. I feel awful. Um, and yeah,
Alrighty. Well,
these are this.
you know what? Maybe for my episode, I'll come up with something that is happy.
People love it. So I was going to say we got two emails about, I mean, which is a lot for us, about Morgan's Wonderland. People being like, "Thanks for telling a nice story." So thank you, Fars. That was lovely. Um,
Yeah, it was Keith. Thank you, Keith, for writing in and
mhm.
for listening. And there was somebody else.
Yes, I think Jason listens. Yes, very, very kind. Um,
And
and
then Daniel wrote in saying, "Hey, that was a really cool episode. We can get back to like the blood and gore soon." And you
oh
delivered.
yeah, thank you. Oh God, yeah, you're
So,
welcome, Danielle. This is for you. It was John who emailed in and said thank you. So thank you, John. Yeah, that's funny. I know. Like it's just fuck, if you this was all you did, if you this was like just if I was the person who wrote the book that I just read, I feel like that's just years of your life that are just so fucking devastating. Like
yeah.
if you study any of these battles or any of these things, and I'm interested in them, and I do study them, and and I do want to learn these things, but you just think about the humanity and you think about people, and you just like my heart breaks. I just want to like hold all the children and be like, don't let this pass on to the next generation. Like just try to help each other. The money is here, the food is here, the stuff is here. Like why don't we just live good lives? And I know we won't, but fuck.
Yeah. I actually want to get to the bottom of why Hirohito decided to attack the US. I kind of feel
Yeah.
like maybe Hitler, I don't know any of this, but maybe like Hitler was like, "Hey man, this is getting really ugly and you're in
hmm
this with me. You got to distract these guys." And then he was like, "Cool, I'm with you, Hitler," or something. Like it had to be
Yeah.
something super stupid.
So a lot of the um oh it says it wasn't like just a decision, but he was like in that whatever. I was Googling it, but I my cousin just moved to Okinawa. She's in the Marines, and a lot of the men that I know in town who because I live so close to a military base, a lot of them have been to Okinawa. And someone that I co-coached baseball with a couple of years ago, he had been to Okinawa and he had been in the military, and we were talking on like about the conspiracy theories, and I was like, "Do you think that FDR knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen?" And he was like, "Absolutely." Like I think he knew that like something was going to happen, and then because the we had just like loaned a bunch of battleships to the UK, and Churchill was like, "You have to help us," and the United States was like, "We can't help you and go in unprovoked," so they needed to be provoked to be able to go in and do it. So like we were ready to
Mm,
go, we just like we needed something to make us do it because the American people were gonna be like, we're really far away from them. let them fight it out, even though
Yeah.
obviously it has like global repercussions. If like Hitler had won Europe, like we wouldn't be here. Like it wouldn't, he would have figured it out. But um, like we needed a reason to join that war, and Pearl Harbor was that. So,
I, ChatGPT has told me that it was due to, in part, preemptive strike doctrine, where Japan thought that it could cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor and then basically have free reign over the rest of Asia, and the
mhm,
U.S. would never recover. Which is like, man, you got some bad intelligence.
some bad advice. I know. And then I do want to, oh, not soon because I'm so depressed, but I do want to talk about like the stuff that the Japanese did in China, like the terrible things they did in Nanking and like things like that, like the brutality of those things.
Yeah, they
Just there's
weren't
so many.
good. Like
Oh
they
no, of
weren't good.
course not.
Yeah, like they
No,
were.
and that's why I think about the children. Like the children would have grown up to be a part of, for the most part, of that society that was brutal, So like, but they're children and they don't have to, and like they
Yeah,
didn't because they lost, they didn't do that, and they're not. It's not like Japan is like brutally trying to attack things. They're just like hanging out and building things and
yeah.
like
They
building
become one of the
robots.
most industrial like countries and technically advanced countries in the world.
Yeah, and they made that decision, so that was always an option. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can choose goodness, you fucking assholes. Um, people.
What did Rodney King say? Can't we all get along?
Yeah, well, we can't. So,
Well,
congratulations.
it's good. It's a warm
Um,
thought.
yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you everybody who wrote in. If you have any other ideas, please do let us know. If
How
you've
do they let us
seen,
know?
yeah, email us doomedtofailpod@gmail.com. All the socials, doomed to fail pod. I'm slowly putting stuff up on TikTok, etc. It takes forever, but I also did a episode this week of our business episodes. Well, let me tell you what those are real fast. I put this up online, just we have so many different topics, but there is, hold on, where did it go? Some of the ones that we did specifically about business, things. A lot of them are yours. Far as we did the Edsel Ponzi schemes, Juicero, 3 parts on the PayPal Mafia. I put Edwin Rist in there because he was like selling those weird things, and I'm like, what are you doing? For Enzo Ferrari, Enron, and I did Action Park as well in there because it was like weird business decisions that got
Yeah,
them there, like
that
lying about
works.
having insurance and stuff. So, listen to those, and I linked to all of those episodes in the notes of that episode.
Sweet. Well, yeah, as Taylor said, write to us, give us your feedback, good, bad, whatever.
Every time you send me
Um,
an email, I forward it to Faraz with like 7,000 exclamation points because I'm so excited that someone emailed us. So
we get 100 emails a day, just so everybody's
please
aware.
do. So Faraz is like, stop forwarding me all of these, but I do it anyway.
I'm gonna have to upgrade my Gmail account.
Yes,
Alrighty, well, thanks, Taylor. Anything else?
that's it.
Sweet. We'll go in and cut
Bye,
things off
friends.
there. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye.